Hey, welcome to Retired Now What, the podcast that's here to guide you through the exciting journey of retirement. Whether you're asking yourself now what or eager to explore the untapped possibilities in this new chapter, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Michael Kiffmeyer, and together we will discover how to repurpose your knowledge, embrace mastery, and live a purpose driven life. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and this is Michael Kiffmeyer coming to you live from San Francisco, California. And you've joined the podcast, You've Retired, Now What? In this podcast, what we try to accomplish are a few things. Number one, we want to help you to get unstuck. You probably had all kinds of plans on what you're going to do. You probably did a lot of them already. And now you're starting to think to yourself, now what do I want to do? You've always been driven in anything you've done, probably, and always had tasks and knew exactly what it was you're going to do. But perhaps you're feeling stuck right now and you're unsure what you should uh, make your next phase of life look like. You always had tasks and processes, and you knew where you were supposed to be from day to day. But now you're starting to question your own self identity. So, how do we start to get ourselves unstuck? How do we start to lay the groundwork for what it is we might think we want to do in the future? I'd like to suggest to you start with a mission statement. A mission statement is what you want to do. Now, this is going to be a living document because this is your life. And I want you to think back when you were a young person and you had plans and dreams on what you wanted to do, how you were going to get there, and once you got there, what it was going to look like. I like you to try to, play the tape back, and I like you to kind of restart and think about that right now. When we were young, we had all kinds of dreams and things that we wanted to accomplish. But as we got older and we had responsibilities, we kind of let them go by the wayside. We had a mortgage, we had car payments, we had taxes to pay, and it became overwhelming. So it seemed like the best thing to do at the time was just keep our nose down, our heads down, and do what we were asked to do. So we got that all important paycheck at the end of each and every week. I want you to start to think back about your core values. What were your core values that you had? I'll guarantee you those values have changed since you got older. I know for myself, things that were important to me in the past don't seem so important anymore. Like many of you, I had the big house on a golf course and thought I had it made. And then reality set in. I was asked for a divorce after 25 years, and I had to reset my jets at 64, 65 years old. And what do you do? Well, you got to keep moving. I reflected back and I have pivoted in my career and in my life, I know 5 to 7 times. And I always thought that if you went and worked for a large company, they would take care of you. Well, I watched this start to unravel towards the late 80s. And then in the 90s, we were outsourcing everything in this country, no matter what the product was, the service was, etc. And we shipped things overseas. And then here we found ourselves as hardworking individuals, we had to regroup again. One thing I do know throughout my life, there's no constants. I always thought there was, and as I got older, I learned that was a pipe dream. I learned you had to adapt to what you were dealing with at the certain time. So I would like to say that one of the first things you need to do is you need to define your purpose. You need to define your purpose and find out, what you're still all about and what's important to you now. That sounds easy enough to do, but it's not always that easy. As I said before, we worked, we knew what we were asked to do from day to day, And we had a schedule and we went right along with the program. But things have changed. One of the biggest things that changed was the pandemic in 2020, and people just really had their world rocked. They had what they could depend on in the past, they could no longer do. Not only were people dying, people were losing jobs, and those jobs weren't going to come back. And so folks had to find a way to readjust the way they thought and understand that if they were going to have security, the security started with them, and they'd have to perhaps do something new. Now, many embraced it, and it was great. It was a great thing. It was a great thing because now you could do exactly what you wanted to do. Was it scary? Absolutely, it was scary, but you still moved on. So you now need to work towards defining your purpose and whatever it is that may be. Here's how I would start, and here's what I encourage you to do. Start with a draft statement. You know, back in the day, Ben Franklin came up with that famous Ben Franklin list. On the one side, you had the pros, on the other side, you had the cons. Why don't you take a subject that you feel that interests you, put it at the top of that page, and write down the pros and write down the cons. And then I want you to start to write down what you feel today your values are and what kind of interests you. And see if what you wrote on the top of that page on something you thought interests you fits your values and what you feel you're all about. You know, if you don't have values and you don't stand for something, you'll be susceptible to anything. And you know what that leads to? Unhappiness. You don't want to be unhappy. We get one chance at this life. We want to make it the best that we can do. Many of you have questions that, what's my legacy? Your legacy is anything you want it to be. Regardless of what you did for the past 30, 40, even 50 years, you don't have to live that way any longer if it doesn't give you pride and fulfill your heart that feel like I'm really happy. You know, people like Thomas Edison, he failed 10,000 times before he invented the light bulb. People ask him, how can you keep going when you failed 10,000 times? He said, I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just didn't have it right with 10,000 different experiments. So 10,001, he finally got it right, and the rest is history. Colonel Sanders tried for years to get his fried chicken recipe accepted in restaurants and different facilities across um, the globe. He was turned down over and over again. He was 65 years old, and finally he got accepted. And he lived his dream and went on from there. We got Ben Franklin, who worked and struggled and did a lot of good for this world. He was working into his 80s. It made him feel alive. And that's what I believe people that have retired, that's what I believe you're looking for. You're looking to be alive. You need to have a sense of purpose. You need to have a reason to jump up out of that bed every day. So outside of writing those draft um, of what you feel you might want to do, etc., I want you to put a timeline to it. Action breeds success. So if you put a timeline to it, let's say you got several different statements or goals that you feel that you want to achieve. When do you want to achieve them by? And once you start to write all these down, I like to see you put a timeline to it. I'm going, and I'll give you a great example, okay? I want to lose 50 pounds and I'm going to do it by August 31st, 2024. Today's March 26th. So you get my drift here. That is, you got to say what you're going to do just about each week, perhaps each day to reach that goal. This is where your happiness is going to lie. Now, it might not be weight loss. It might not be you want to run marathons. It might be something as simple as you want to fix your house and there's things that you put off for you for forever. Well, you got the time to do these things now. And if you put a timeline to it, you're going to be amazed how much you get accomplished. You know what else is going to happen? The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a sense of accomplishment, which is going to give you pride and it's going to give you a sense of purpose. And more importantly, it's going to give you a reason to get up out of that bed each and every day. Now, you might have to revise and refine this over and over again because it's your living document. You don't have to answer to anybody. You're not turning in homework. You're just trying to find your happy place, your nirvana, if you will, that gives you satisfaction and gives you a sense of being and gives you the strive and the energy to keep moving. I would also suggest you share this mission state with other people. You know, we weren't meant to live alone. We were meant to live in community and to share back and forth. And there are so many people that get in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. They withdraw and they're lonely, but they need to take a step forward and they need to quit using that excuse. Well, I'm older now, so you just don't understand. I call bull on all that. Just you can do what you want to do. You know, there's a gentleman by the name of Daniel Buettner, and Daniel not only did a movie, he wrote a book called The Blue Zones. Daniel traveled all over the world. He wanted to find out why these people that he found were experiencing such longevity and they were happy like the cowboy down in Mexico, or excuse me, it was Costa Rica. And well, this guy used to do the fields and rope the cows, etc. But as he got older, he, he had to do things like just clean the saddles, clean the barn out, maybe cook a few meals, etc. This man, at the last printing of that book, he was like 98 years old, but still happy as a lark. Just had a sense of purpose, a sense of waking up every day. And I want that for you too. I want you to, just because you retired, that's not a finality. You've heard me say before that doctors and scientists have shown us we're living 25 to 30 years longer than previous generations. Know what that means? If you retired at 65, chances of you making it to your mid 80s to 90s are probably pretty darn good. What are you going to do with all that time? That's a long time to sit around and complain or sit around and do nothing. You need to have the energy to spring up and feel that you're alive each and every day. You know, energy and being alive doesn't have a time frame. It's whatever you want to be at the time. I heard William Shatner, the actor, recently say he's getting ready to celebrate his 93rd birthday, and they asked him what his secret was. You know what he said? He said, "Don't tell him how old you are." So age is a frame of mind, and that's really true. You're only as old as you feel you are, and you are as young as you show yourself to be. When you write this draft, remember, there's no right way or wrong way. This is your life. This is not just something that is a nice thing to have. This is going to be your living document. So along with that draft of what you think you want to do, you need to come up with an inspiring to-do list. Reflect on your passions and your values and see if you're getting anywhere close to where you want to be. The other thing you need to do is brainstorm ideas. Talk to yourself out loud. Say, I think I might want to do this, but this is not the reason. Keep a journal to map your thought process. I have found journals have helped me tremendously. Sometimes I do them digitally, but most time I just do them real simple. I have a journal book and I write down my thoughts. And they don't have to be 2 and 3 pages. They can be a simple paragraph, but it can give you a couple things. Number one, you have gratitude for being on the face of this earth. More importantly, you're also kind of telling yourself and the world, my name is so and so, and here's what my values are, here's what I stand for, and here's what I believe I want to do. I find it nothing any more troublesome than finding disingenuous people. Those are those people that just kind of go with the flow. Those are the people that don't really stand for anything. They'll just do whatever is expected of them, and they just follow the crowd. That's what they do. So take that list that you've made, all the to-dos, and start to prioritize it. Rank them for what you think you might like to accomplish first versus what you're going to accomplish later. Prioritize that list over and over again. And what used to be in number one might slip down to number two, number three. There's nothing wrong with that. You need to set achievable milestones. Don't come up with something like, I want to go to the moon. You know that's not going to happen. But losing weight or running a marathon, writing a book, those are all achievable if you put your mind to it and you start to prioritize it and you put an action list against it. I've always been a student of SMART goals. And SMART goals, if some of you have not understood them in the past, SMART goals are specific. You're saying you're going to accomplish something specific. SMART goals are achievable. I'm going to accomplish this in this amount of time frame. Um, you've got to have a form of measurement that if you take so many days to accomplish something, then track it to see if you're on the right track. As I said before, they need to be achievable. Don't do a pie in the sky because you know you're never going to get there. They need to be reasonable and they need to have timelines put to them. If you follow this track, I think you're going to be amazed at what you accomplish and how proud you are going to be of yourself. You need to take action immediately. I said action leads to success. You need to celebrate these successes that you achieve now. You need to go back and revisit what you did through your life. You need to take credit for those successes as well. And you know what those successes are all about? Those successes are what makes you the person you are today. So think about that and start writing these things down. Create an inspiring must-to-do list on pretty much on a weekly or at least a monthly basis. You got to review this over and over again because if you don't, you're not going to get to where you want to be. It's good to embrace self-reflection. Don't do remember whens. Remember we did this. Remember we did that. I grew up with a very close class, both in grade school and high school and college. And I'm amazed at how many of my friends still live back there in the past. I loved all those times, but hanging back there, that's not going to help me get to where I want to be and make me feel self-fulfilled and make me feel good about myself. You need to dedicate time to reflect back on all these successes. You don't just kind of do it here or there. You have to schedule it and you got to put blocks of time away to make sure that you're focusing on yourself and what it is you want to do. Journaling and self-assessment are wonderful. They'll keep you on track. They'll keep you towards your goal, whatever it may be. I have another idea for you. Seek out inspirational people. Perhaps somebody's been retired longer than you have, and you think and you see from afar that they seem to be pretty successful. Success leaves clues. And if they have something that you want, why don't you interview them? Why don't you sit them, ask them a question, and you just say, look, I've noticed you've done this, this, and this, and I admire that. I'm struggling with myself right now because I really don't know what I want to do in the next phase of my life. Could you help walk me through your process, what you did to get to where you are now, and how you felt after you got there. It's amazing what they can share with you. You know that? It's just they'll share, and people, what do people like to talk about the most? They like to talk about themselves. And if you show real interest, they're going to give you more information than you can believe. And you write this information down because it could be valuable for you to help you get to where you want to be. And on top of that, here's what else. Once you start to get where you want to be, perhaps you can help people in the future that are struggling just like you are now. You need to seek inspiration from different sources. Maybe go to lectures, maybe take a class, take a course online, listen to podcasts, and listen to motivational speakers, because something along that line, when you start to tap all these different avenues, it's going to trigger your mind to, you know what I think I want to do? I think I want to do this, this, and this, and here's how I'm going to go about it. And perhaps one of the worst things you can do is think that there's only one thing for you. There might be multiple things that you're interested in and that you want to do. Why do you have to put handcuffs on yourself or put blinders on saying, well, I can only do this? That's a bunch of bull. You can do whatever it is you want to do as long as you have your heart, your mind, and put into it 100%. You might want to reach out to a mentor or a coach. Athletes, they all have coaches. And I know people think, well, you might have a couple coaches. I've read Tom Brady has he has a mind coach. He has a nutritional coach. He has a um, TV coach to help him do his podcast and his interviews. You might say, well, that's all great. He's got a lot of money. You'll be surprised if you just go to your local community college, how much information's out there for free. And gosh knows, if you get on the internet, it's just more information you ever thought of. And all you got to do is type in a few words, and you're going to get all kinds of information to put together. So when you reflect back on your reflection time, you're going to see how valuable that is. You're going to start to understand how you became the person you are today. You have a ton of knowledge. You've lived pretty much 70% of your life. Why don't we take that knowledge and not only help yourself, perhaps you can help others, and perhaps it will help you feel even just better. So research and target different professions. When we went to college or we worked at a job, we started to uncover jobs and professions that we never knew were out there. And we said, well, I could do that, or I want to do that. I'll give you a great example. I started my career out as a teacher in public schools, and my part-time job was working for a salesman at Levi Strauss. Well, I didn't know you can make money selling apparel to different organizations around the world. And that was one of my first professions. I did this for 14 years. And then one day, I moved back from California back to my hometown in Cincinnati, and a person approached me, have you ever sold computers? I said, are you kidding me? I said, I'm 37 years old at that time. The only time I used a computer was to type my resume. But guess what? I learned how to sell computers and softwares in local area and wide area networks. And that led me to marry technology to education. And I was responsible for building one of the first and the largest interactive learning centers in the nation. I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way. I'm saying that one needs to pivot and one needs to adjust, even when you're retired. You can't say, well, this is it, because that's not what you grew up to do. That's not what you wanted for your life. You had these great dreams, you had these visions. Let's act on them. Let's think about them a little bit. You need to write out a personalized message to yourself saying, in a year from now, I want to accomplish this, this, and this. And then put a timeline to each one of those things you want to um, accomplish. When you interview people, you need to think really hard. Ask insightful questions so they know that you're not just groping. You actually are trying to do something to get answers. You need to follow up anybody that helps you. You need to follow that up with gratitude message. You need to tell them how much you think or how much you like what they provided you with, and you're going to put it to work. Perhaps you might even want to share your plan with them. So you told me this, and I started to research, different areas, and I never knew some of these areas were available. But here's how I think I'm going to go about it. Would you be so kind to give me your input and tell me what you think? Is this good or is this not good? And I'll tell you what, one thing people like to do more than anything else in the world, they love to talk about themselves. And I don't say that in a flippant manner. I say that if you ask the people the right questions, who, what, why, when, and how, and they start to give you insight to what their journey was about, I think you're going to be amazed at how far you come along in your journey. So we're coming to a close to our podcast tonight. If you know friends, colleagues, family members, or anyone else that might benefit from this, please invite them to these podcasts, which I do weekly. They usually hit the airwaves on a Wednesday each and every week. Some days it might fluctuate. And if I can answer any questions for you, or if there's any questions that you have that you'd like to learn some more about, I have a lot of resources to come up with answers. But if I don't have the answers, perhaps many of the folks that are on this podcast with you do. I want this to become a community. I want us to help each other. And just remember, you've heard it before, there's no dumb questions. If it's bothering you, chances are it's bothering somebody else as well. I thank you. I look forward to seeing you again next week. And surely give me your questions because I want to make this podcast and this community fit your needs. Thank you for listening, and I'll visit with you next week. Goodbye now. Thanks for tuning in to Retired Now What. I hope today's conversation has given you some valuable insights as you navigate the journey of life after retirement. Always remember, life doesn't stop after retirement. It's an opportunity for a new beginning.